I'm gonna show the chairman because he needs to get some.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Judicial Proceedings Committee. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2023. We have 5 bills on the docket, and we're going to start off with, I don't have a list here, but Delegate Sheree Sample Hughes, you're up. Welcome.
Okay, sure. All right. Okay. All right. Good afternoon. It certainly is a pleasure to be with you on this afternoon. Chairman Smith and our illustrious Vice Chair Wall Striker. He's probably like, whoa, me? Yes, you. Just wanting to say welcome and thank you to all the members of the Judicial Proceedings Committee that I'm here today to ask for your support on House Bill 71, motor vehicles and school vehicle drivers medical examinations. So House Bill 71 changes the current state requirements for school bus drivers passing medical examinations from annually to every 2 years. So essentially, this is enabling legislation. It's not requiring that every county moves from the 2 to the 1. It is giving them the opportunity, if they choose to, go to every 2 years. And I will explain further why. This bill did pass the House unanimously on March the 2nd. And in our original testimony, we had representation from Wycomico County as well as St. Mary's County, the Director of Transportations. And the message in this bill is to, number one, align with federal requirements and those of our neighboring states, those being Pennsylvania, Delaware, and Virginia. This is an opportunity for us to be a little bit more competitive, to obtain school bus drivers. I think we can say in most of our jurisdictions, we are challenged with some barriers. And one of the barriers is one of this particular issue through this piece of legislation being it is now required that you have a national certification as a physician to sign off on the medical examinations. Well, in every jurisdiction, we're not as plentiful with physicians that have already had the national certification to do this. So you may find in Kent County, you may have only 3 physicians that are certified, whereas you may find in Prince George's County, you may have a plethora of maybe 30. So that's one of the barriers. Secondly, what we have done is to make sure that the Motor Vehicle Administration has a medical review board now, and they are allowed to obtain complaints from anyone. It used to be years ago that it may just be from the school board. Now you have it from parents, you have it from neighbors or whomever, if they in fact see that there is an issue with a school bus on the highways. And so to that end, it puts more watchful eyes out into our community. The other piece to note is just probably a week or so before we had the hearing in the House, there was an incident where a parent and someone on the highway did see a bus driver. It just appeared like it wasn't maybe too kosher or something going on. And so they immediately, made the contact with the school board as well as this process through MVA. And the school board immediately addressed the issue. As a matter of fact, the Director of Transportation ended up intervening and driving the bus and dealing with the situation. So a lot of parameters are in place and safeguards are in place, I should say. And this particular opportunity is for us to address a lot of barriers that we are encountering right now in this worker shortage. The last piece I'll mention is that we have the support from the Maryland School Bus Contractors Association, as many others as well, but that letter will be forthcoming to you. So again, I ask for your favorable report and support on this piece of legislation because it is vital for us to keep drivers for the school buses throughout the state of Maryland, but to also address this post-pandemic shortage situation that we are encountering. So thank you for your time and listening to this piece of legislation. And I ask for your support on House Bill 71.
Thank you very much, Delegate. Questions from the committee? So this makes it mandatory, right? Mandatory for every 2 years?
No, this is enabling legislation. So you have the ability for your jurisdiction to decide whether or not you want to keep 1 year as being the requirement to accept these annual examinations. Some counties in the state choose to continue with that. Garrett County may be one of them. Whereas some of the other counties have expressed, it's like, no, we at least want to move and have the ability to accept them up to 2 years. So you have that flexibility. There's no way in this bill changing that. It does say that you have the flexibility up to 2 years.
Yes, and not the 1 year it's in regs.
Correct,
Got it.
of the barrier that we have now. Okay,
Questions from the committee? All right, thank you very much.
thank
Thank
you.
Always good to see you.
Likewise.
Okay. All right, with that, that'll conclude the hearing for House Bill 71. We'll now move on to Delegate Lehman. No? All right, Delegate Watson. Oh, I saw that.
Thank
See
you,
that?
Mr.
She's
Chair.
back there.
Good afternoon. I'm Delegate Courtney Watson for the record, and I am here to present House Bill 72. House Bill 72 is a small sort of deregulation bill for charitable small charities, and it is in the same posture as Senate Bill 254, with the exception of one amendment that was submitted by the Secretary of State's office but was too late to add to the House bill. Senate Bill 254, with that amendment, passed wisely by this committee unanimously and by the Senate unanimously. We are happy to have the amendment that you placed on Senate Bill 254 placed on House Bill 72 so that they're in the same posture. I'd be happy to explain the bill, but you've already passed it unanimously and I don't want to waste your time. But do you have any questions?
That was a smart move. All right. I think we're good to go. So we'll slap the amendment on and send it to everyone.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Committee.
All right, thank you, Delegate Watson. That will end the hearing for House Bill 72. Who wants to go next? All right, yes, come on up. So we have House Bill 262.
Thank you,
Delegate Foley.
Mr. Chair. I raised my hand. Thank you, Mr. Chair and Mr. Vice Chair and members of the Judicial Proceedings Committee. I'm Delegate Linda Foley and I'm presenting House Bill 262, which would allow a police department to notify the secured parties or lien holders of an abandoned vehicle electronically if the electronic notification is agreed to by the police department, the tower, and the secured party. This is a simple and straightforward bill, similar to a bill passed into law last year, which enabled towers who tow or remove a vehicle from a parking lot to electronically notify individuals rather than having to do it in written form. HB 262 simply extends this provision to police department tows of abandoned vehicles, which in most cases are handled by towing companies. Currently, a police department is required to notify the owner and any secured party or the insurer by record or certified mail, return receipt requested in Baltimore City and Montgomery County, and by first-class mail within 7 days elsewhere. This process is followed to provide proper notification to all parties to reclaim the vehicle. Electronic notification would only occur if it is agreed to by the police department, the tower, and the secured party. Allowing for electronic notification streamlines the process, saves money, and serves to resolve matters more quickly with respect to abandoned vehicles. Today, most transactions, as we know, are handled electronically from the purchasing of a home, securing a loan, and submitting applications. So we're in the 21st century, and it's only fair to provide electronic notification of a lien, just as other forms of communication are already electronic. This bill passed the House unanimously, and really no one opposes this bill. The legislation was discussed with the Maryland Bankers Association, the Maryland Chiefs of Police Association, and the Maryland Sheriffs Association. The bankers had no concerns, and the chiefs and sheriffs supported the bill in the House. Representatives of the towing and recovery professionals of Maryland, who are here in the room today, are in support of this bill, and they can I'm sure they'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them. I urge the committee to give HB 262 a favorable report to modernize and streamline the notification process of abandoned vehicles. Thank you very much for your time today.
Excellent. Thank you very much. All right, questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Delegate Foley.
Thank you.
With that, that'll end the hearing for House Bill 262. We'll now move on to Delegate David Fraser. Oh, all right, never mind. All right, someone else. All right.
I'll take it. Thank you.
So House Bill 20 then.
Yes,
Lehman, you're
sir,
up.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chair Smith and Vice Chair Waldstreicher and esteemed committee members. For the record, I am Delegate Mary Lehman, and I am returning with a bill that I presented to you last year requiring helmets for equestrians under age 18 who are riding on public trails, along roadways, and at lesson or border barns. The amended bill with lesson and border barns passed the full House on a strong bipartisan vote of 125 to 12. I'm presenting the bill as it passed out of ENT and the full House with a provision that requires riders to wear helmets at facilities that provide, quote, recreational, educational, or competitive equestrian activities. It applies to donkeys, mules, and ponies, as well as horses. It does not apply to the following: where youth are practicing for or competing in events where helmets are not normally worn, those crossing a public road that separates two pieces of private land, and those engaged in agricultural activities. Last year, based on a concern by Senator Bailey, who I believe is no longer on this committee, we amended it to say that it doesn't apply to minors who are members of the Amish or Mennonite communities. So the use of appropriate equestrian helmets, to me, should be as commonplace as seat belts or infant and booster seats for kids who are riding in cars. And Maryland law does in fact require kids to wear bike helmets, which it should, but a fall from a horse is much more dangerous than a fall from a bicycle. And that is because, first of all, a horse is much higher off the ground than a bicycle, but also when someone falls off a horse, there is a significant risk that the rider will be kicked by the horse or even stepped on when they fall to the ground. And falls are the primary cause of equestrian-related injuries, and that includes concussions. Concussion safety and prevention has become a big issue in recent years in sports. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention defines a concussion as a brain injury caused by a bump or blow to the head that can change the way the brain works. And what even seems to be a mild bump on the head can result in a serious injury. Now, last year, the committee wanted to know some statistics about the accidents involving equestrian riders. And this year I have information from an excellent letter from the Maryland Department of Health in support of the bill. And the Maryland Department of Health quotes the Maryland Health Services Costs Review Commission, better known as the HSCRC. And the HSCRC reported that over a 4-year period from 2016 to 2020, there were 456 horse-related injuries involving traumatic brain injuries. 456 injuries, that's more than 100 a year involving traumatic brain injuries. And those were seen in emergency departments all over the state of Maryland. Of those, just about 40% involve riders under the age of 19. So that's the information the committee sought last year. There are actually no concussion-proof helmets per se, but an equestrian helmet that meets or exceeds the standards of the American Society of Testing and Materials for Protective Headgear used in equestrian riding will help protect minors. The bill requires that adults who are supervising minors ensure youth riders are wearing a properly fitted, secured helmet that meets these national headgear safety standards. Failure to do so under the transportation article is a misdemeanor, and it could result in a fine of up to $500. I want to note that there was no opposition testimony in the House on this bill. And again, the goal is to protect young equestrian riders from concussions and other serious head injuries. I urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Delegate Lehman. Sparing you the conversation about Shetland ponies and mini ponies. I remember, all right, this bill passage is contingent upon your answer to this question, which is, what is the difference between Eastern and Western riding style? Do you remember this from last session? I just remember this from that.
And so the reference I made
I'm
to
joking.
where it doesn't apply is to Western riding, although it didn't spell that out because they do not normally wear headgear.
Yeah,
and so that's an exemption, whether they're practicing or actually riding in a competition. They do not normally wear
She
headgear at all.
prepared this time for that answer because it was funny. I was like, what is Eastern riding style? And then in jest, you said Western riding style, which is true. But anyway, all right, Senator Sinor, go ahead.
I'm better informed this year.
I listened to you, but I'm trying to understand what's the difference between this bill and what I thought we passed something. We didn't. So this is last year's bill? but improved. Okay.
With some amendments, yes.
Right.
I had it before the committee last year, but with the amendments on riding at barns where horses are boarded or they're, minors are taking lessons. And then also the amendment for Amish and Mennonite
Gotcha.
riders.
Okay, thank you.
Senator
You're
Bailey
welcome.
with his perennial Amish amendment on almost every bill that we have.
He
He's
was,
got a-
he was concerned it wasn't enforceable in those communities.
And he's got a significant Amish community in his district, so.
And we did ask the Attorney General's office, just as an aside, whether that would be problematic. And we were told there are some other exceptions
Bailey.
in Maryland law for the Amish and Mennonite communities, and that would not be an issue.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the bill. Questions from the committee? Additional questions? All right. With that, that'll end the hearing for House Bill 20. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I don't see Delegate Griffith here. So Delegate, would you like to come up for Griffith? This is House Bill 250.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Unfortunately, Delegate Griffith is testifying in another committee, so I'm his Chief of Staff, Shirai Yousefi, and I will be testifying today. The delegate is requesting a favorable report on HB 250, the Vehicle Laws Disabled Veteran Registration Plate Issuance. Currently in the state of Maryland, disabled veterans can qualify and receive a disabled veteran's license plate if the veteran has a total or 100% disability rating as a result of their military service. Upon qualification, they will receive a license plate with the words disabled veteran or DV printed on it, and the registration for that plate will actually be waived. The license plate, when affixed to a vehicle, provides a safety cue, not only for the disabled veteran operating the vehicle, but also for outside personnel who may need to approach the vehicle and interact with the veteran. Because of the important safety role that this license plate plays in designating and using as that visual cue, HB 250 lowers the qualifying threshold from 100% down to 50%. And this number at 50% is a very important number. This is the mid-level threshold for which post-traumatic stress disorder within a veteran can occur with certain extreme circumstances. These would be pronounced problems at work and perhaps in everyday life. They may also include ranges from significant reduction in productivity to a risk of frequent panic attacks and difficulty following simple instructions. Furthermore, if a veteran has a 30% PTSD rating, but that has been combined with other physical disabilities to reach that 50% threshold, the combination could be potentially so severe that if outside personnel, such as maybe in some cases a first responder, were to approach the vehicle, this could trigger a PTSD episode within the disabled veteran, and it could create an unsafe situation for all the concerned parties. However, if the vehicle displays the DV designation on the license plate, the first responder or other personnel would see this cue and quickly determine the best method for connecting with the disabled veteran, one that does not pose a threat and decreases the chances of an episode. There is no doubt this would create a safer environment for the disabled veteran and for the community at large. As of this past January, around 17,000 disabled veterans in Maryland had that DV plate, and those would be already at that 100% threshold. If we were to lower to the 50%, as in the bill, an additional 41,000 would be able to apply. They would still need to qualify, but they would have to still be able to apply at this point. There are two important things I did want to emphasize. One, we did not waive the registration fee in lowering that threshold. So those who are still qualifying at the 100% threshold would have the registration fee waived. Those at the 50% to the 99% would not have it waived. So there is no fiscal note on that. And then one question that actually did come up in the House was whether or not this would automatically kick in the universal disability wheelchair symbol on the plate. And it would not. They would likely qualify for it, but they would still need to go through the parameters in order to apply for that. So with that, the delegate is requesting a favorable report, and I thank you for your time.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Well done. Questions? Oh, Senator Folden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I just want to be clear. So Delegate Griffith's other bill was more important than this one. So we don't get to see it.
I'm going to let the delegate answer that
Okay.
at some
All
other
right.
point.
No, that's all. Thank you.
All right. He was here earlier, but we started late. So,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, that'll end the hearing for House Bill 250. Now we'll move on to House Bill 123 with Delegate David Fraser Doggo. Welcome. Good to see you, man.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Of course. I'm going to start out with, this is a really simple bill, and the reason I say that is because unlike many of our colleagues, it is really a simple bill. So the HOV stickers that you see on electric vehicles that allow folks on Route 50 and 270 to drive on HOV lanes, that expired last year, and we just got busy and didn't get around to renewing it. So all this bill does is allow people who drive electric vehicles. It extends that program and sunsets in 2 years, just as an opportunity to try to encourage people to drive electric vehicles. So it's really that simple. It just lets you put that little sticker. And with that said, I think I'm just under a minute, unless there are any questions.
I noticed there's a whole lot of favorables and some are favorable with amendments, whether amendments made.
Yeah, there were a couple of small amendments that we attached to the bill. I can explain them if you want, but I mean, one of the amendments was to sunset the bill in 2025. Because we figure by 2020, that's a good amendment. We figure by 2025, EVs are in another 2 years, EVs are probably going to be exactly, where they need to be. And then the other one was to allow the agency to levy a small fee up to $20 should they elect to. They've never done it in the past, but the kind of thought was, well, if they want to, $20 is it's $20. So absolutely.
Actually, I think you just answered the question because of the amendment. My
Okay.
concern was by 2035, we're going to have an awful lot of electric vehicles on the roads.
Yep.
And everybody's going to be crowded in the HOV lane, which defeats the purpose of the HOV lane. So you're going to sunset this bill in 2 years. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, I think I might just disagree with my colleague Senator West. 2 years from now, it should be sunsetted. It was there, a theory behind the sunset is just like, we're gonna have enough cars, enough people encouraging them to have electric cars, so we won't need it anymore.
Yeah, so I'll try to be short, but back in 2007, the General Assembly, along with the governor, put us in the same boat as California, the electric or ZVIC, zero emission vehicles. And by 2025, I think it is, we're supposed to have 200,000 vehicles on the roads in the state of Maryland registered. I don't think we'll be quite there, but we'll be a lot closer. And when 2025 comes along, we'll have a better opportunity to gauge where we are to see if we want to push it for another couple of years. But the thought was by 2035, we should be well along the way.
Got it. I hate that sticker, by the way. It's
Do you?
just ugly. Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further questions, I'll end the hearing for House Bill 123. Thank you very much, Delegate.
you.
And
Thank you,
we'll see
everyone.
soon. All right, with that, that'll end the hearings for the day.